one of the curiosity that everyone has in India in the strategic space is how's Europe going to cope with what Trump has unleashed in terms of taking decisions left, right, and center. JD Vance, the Vice President, really ramrodding the Europeans at the Munich Security Conference. Where does Europe stand today as far as the global scenario is concerned?
Yeah, that's probably the $1 million question right now, because you remember very well what kind of reaction we witnessed immediately after J.D. Vance's speech at the Munich Security Conference, and then what followed up was practically the initiated process of talks with the Russians and separately with the Ukrainians on behalf of the US, where the Europeans were completely sidelined. And the sad reality is that it took Europe one kind of move by Trump that they interpreted as, a kind of backstabbing, to finally decide to act, to get their act together in the security and defense field, but not 3+ years of ongoing war.
The war really didn't have that reality check.
There was no sense of urgency before that.
Yes.
I mean, of course, there were concrete measures such as the sanctions and the military aid for Ukraine, and also obviously the international diplomacy, but there was no sense of urgency. And suddenly this public outcry, this kind of awkward emotional state of our political decision makers and our European bureaucrats of kind of hopelessness following these kind of events. And this is what I seriously cannot buy.
They should have seen it coming.
They should have seen it coming. They should have prepared accordingly. They didn't do their homework, and now they are just interpreting it as, as something that Trump initiated, right? So that's the first. Yes. Second, if we are to understand and analyze what an adequate European response to this Trump administration should be, then we need first and foremost to consider that there are 3 different dimensions to it. There is the ideological one.
Right.
Here we have a situation where Trump administration is looking at the European decision makers. Yes, I'm generalizing, of course, so there are exceptions, but let's take the average example. So they are looking at these European decision makers and these European bureaucrats in a similar way. They are looking at, let's say, the governors in New York or California. That's right. The ideological, the complete ideological gap,
yes,
first and foremost.
Absolutely.
So there is no space for trust, right? Second, there is the economic dimension. Here, what Trump administration is intending to do and is going to do, and it was anticipated long ago, is not just tariff policy and not just trade war. Is this complete decoupling from China, first and foremost. China is the big target where we might end up with probably something like 50-60% tariff, at the end of the journey, and nobody will remain unaffected. Right. So, of course, the European Union, given the fact that Trump is an anti-globalist and he cannot accept organizations such as the European Union, is going to be a collateral of that. So
absolutely.
Why hasn't been the case that the President of the European Commission hadn't prepared accordingly to, initiate a team and to actually, travel to Washington to try to convey the message and to try to mitigate? Nothing of that happened. We just received the message. And then finally, but most importantly, there is the geopolitical dimension of this relationship. It's about security and defense. It's about the trust, the values-based approach. Remember, rules-based warfare, what happened with that? And here we see also a big cleavage, because the Americans are now openly saying what everybody was expecting, and we were talking about it year after year, namely the US withdrawal from the old continent, and telling the Europeans, dear friends, now it's your turn to take care
of yourself,
yes, when it comes to security and defense, with the big difference that we are now in the 4th year of the largest conventional war.
That's right.
Since the end of
Second World War.
Second World War.
Absolutely.
That's it.